It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to the program. Woohoo! The cold snap has ended, hopefully, for most of us. And we are in that interim weekend before the Super Bowl. I don't know. Did you watch that? I mean, those games last weekend were pretty insane. Statistically, I would have to say that I always thought that even though the New England Patriots were the quote-unquote underdogs, it's kind of like market timing. Like, you never get it right. But didn't you all have a feeling that the guy was going to march down the field and make it happen? Come on. Mark, is Tom Brady the best quarterback of all time? He's shrugging his shoulders. He's got to be up there. But, anyway. Hang on one whole week to the Super Bowl. Broadcast on the CBS network for all of you who care. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your finances. We are broadcasting live from the Capital One Bank studios. I am Jill Schlesinger, and this is the show that is trying to help you make better financial decisions. Take the mystery out of anything money related. The way that we can help you is if you basically contact us. So you can send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. And you can also just hop onto our website, JillOnMoney.com, and there you can click on the Contact Us button. Very easy. So let's go and start the program as we like to with a call. Let's start with Brian from North Carolina. Hi, Brian. Welcome to the program. What can I do for you?
Hi, Jill. I'm just calling, sort of getting into the second half of the financial marathon, and kind of looking at, where we're positioned currently in terms of, debt, assets, and kind of where we should focus next, kind of where some of the best places to put future dollars are to, prepare for the end of the career and moving into retirement.
Okay, so tell us about yourselves.
So I'm 49. My wife is 50. We have two daughters. One is in college, a freshman. The other is a junior in high school. Single income household. I work in financial services. My wife has a photography business that she started. It's starting to get off the ground. It earns a modest income, but it's a nice income stream to have on the side. Let's see. We've got a house, no mortgage. It's paid for. I have always maxed out my employer contribution plans, and then we've got some money in IRAs on the side from a prior employer.
Okay.
Employment.
How much do you make, Brian?
I make base around just under $200,
Mm-hmm.
and then I've got a bonus plan that can be anywhere from another $50,000 to $90,000, depending on how the company's stock does and what the resulting payout is.
I'm just going to guess, because of where you're calling from, that I might know where you work. So, it could be a few institutions, but maybe it's something that rhymes with Rank of America. Okay, just kidding. It's possible. How's your cash flow on just the base, the $200,000 base, with two kids and the freshman in college, and how's that going?
It's going fine. That's what we live on. In fact, we tend to live on a little less than that and try to put some away for emergencies or for ongoing expenses.
Great.
Sorority payments and things like that.
Okay, and you did mention that your wife has has a photography business, and you said it brings in a little money. About how much does that bring in?
12 to 15 gross.
Okay. Great.
Growing.
Okay, fantastic. Because we want her to go to work while you don't, which is fantastic,
Absolutely.
Right? That's very good. All right, so tell me, what have you saved so far?
So we've got in qualified plans around 1.2. 950 of that is in, a traditional 401k. Most of that is in a traditional 401k. That's about 850 or so. My wife has an IRA from prior employment of about 90, and then another 10 in a Roth IRA, and I have 15 in a Roth IRA. We kind of priced that a long time ago. Mm-hmm. I've recently rolled my traditional IRA back into my 401k so that I can begin to make backdoor Roth contributions.
Oh, brilliant.
So hopefully that will help pad it as we go forward.
That's great. And that's part of the 850, or is there more? But that rollover that you put back into your 401k is the 850, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
got it. Okay, perfect.
Exactly.
All right. What about?
And then we've got. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about anything else that's retirement, basically?
Yeah, so there's an old pension plan that's been discontinued. There's about $115,000 in that. Most of that's invested in a 4% guarantee, I guess, credit fund or bond fund.
Yep.
And then, the rest of that's invested like my 401k, so in index funds.
Mm-hmm.
I think the payout, currently is around, if I, took it as a pension, it would be about $500 a month, but, the lump sums are now $115.
Okay. And there's just a quick, you said the kids so you have one in college and one who's in high school. What about, is there any of the money that you have currently set aside for the kids?
Yes. So we've got, we started saving when they were pretty much first born. So each of them at its peak had about $75,000 in a 529 plan. We've dipped into that sum as the first one has started college, but we've got about $135,000 saved for college.
The older one, she is in a public or private right now, college?
Public. We have some very good schools in North Carolina, so it's hard to place a value on not using those.
Darn those Tar Heels that they always used to win when I was in college. Okay, so what about other stuff? Anything else that I should know about? For example, non-retirement savings or just a safe emergency reserve fund?
Yeah, we've got about $60,000 in a money market fund at Vanguard, where our other retirement funds are. I've got, another $15,000 in an HSA. 9,000 of that we've invested, and the rest we use to pay for in-year expenses as they come up. And as that fund grows, we'll invest a little bit more for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other, I've got a deferred comp plan that vests over 3 years, and that tends to be part of my bonus payout. So there's about $75,000 in that currently.
Great.
So I would expect some of that to vest this year. When it does, we typically roll that into an S&P or a more broad fund rather than keeping it in stock.
Fantastic. So now that I've yacked and made you nutty, I'm going to go to pay a quick bill. And when we return, we're going to get to all of your questions about what happens. I like you say the second half of your life. That's quite ambitious if you're going to live to 100, but maybe you will. Who knows? You're listening to Jill on Money. When we return, Brian, the Tar Heel from North Carolina, we're going to talk about what happens in H2 of his financial life. If you've got a financial question, just go to JillOnMoney.com and click on the Contact Us button. While you're there, you can always subscribe to the newsletter. Check it out. It's free and it's weekly, and we love it. All right, we'll be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. And before we went to the break, we were talking to Brian, who's got a really fantastic financial story to tell. He and his wife are just about 50 years old. They got a couple kids. One's in college, one's in high school, but they've saved a bunch of money in 529 plans, $1.2 million in retirement assets. They've got their emergency reserve covered. They've got a health savings account. He's got some deferred comp kicking around. All of this is fantastic. Lives beneath his means. And so, Brian, one thing I neglected to ask you, you said you max out your current retirement plan, right?
Right.
And does your wife also, even though she's not making that much money right now, does she also make ongoing retirement plan contributions?
She does not currently, but that's one of the questions I had.
Okay.
About, how we should focus some of that.
Okay. So let's talk about H2 of Brian and wife's financial life. What are the questions that you're thinking about that I can help you with?
Yeah, a couple of things. So, there's a general question, which is, based on what we've just discussed, where do you think our focus should be overall? And then I've got a question around my wife's contributions. So if we were going to take some of the money from her earnings, would it be better to make an after-tax contribution to a traditional Roth? To a traditional IRA, since, it probably would cost a bit much to do a conversion to a Roth. Or should we just put that into your run-of-the-mill after-tax account?
If you believe, as I do and as many of our guests believe, that the tax situation is probably going to get a little bit tougher going forward, then you want to try to use the tax code to your advantage. So we know that you're doing that right now, right? So that's the good news. Your highest marginal tax rate between the two of you, even if you have like a monster year and bonus, looks to be at 24%. And I think 24% is a pretty good marginal tax rate to pay if you are going to look forward, for your own lives with, you'll end up having a couple $1 million. So, and maybe more than that. So I think that what I would first think about is that in your particular situation, especially if for some reason, you stay in this 24% tax bracket, how can I take advantage of that? So one way is, as you did, like you put the money from your IRA rollover back into your 401k so that you can do a backdoor Roth. And the reason why that's important, everyone listening, is that if you don't do that, then there are rules about existing IRAs and how you can convert using a backdoor Roth. It basically kind of negates the power of the backdoor Roth because you have a calculation that screws you up and makes it seem as if you don't have the same power of the conversion because all of that money in traditional gets counted against you. So good news on that. For your wife, I don't know. You don't have a ton of money in non-retirement assets, so I would just pay the tax and move on. I'm totally fine with that. You have most of your money tied up in retirement. But I do think that focusing on that tax situation is important. You have a traditional 401k right now, right?
Correct. Although I am now, from now on, beginning this year, contributing to my Roth 401k.
Good. I was going to say, okay, so great. So use the Roth for yourself because otherwise, you can't. It's amazing that you're allowed to use a Roth option because in a 401k environment, there's no income limit. So yes, I would go ahead and do that. So I would say that she should pay the tax, not worry too much about the Roth, and beef up your non-retirement assets. You should use the Roth 401k. What else is on the horizon that we need to pay for and think about in your long-term game plan?
Yeah, long-term, let's just assume retirement at 62 as a baseline. So that's number one. I have two daughters, so being a little bit presumptuous, there are probably some weddings in the future. So that could be a big nut.
Of course, there's always the great suggestion of mom and dad will fly you anywhere you want after you elope. Okay.
Trust me, we will have that conversation.
Understood.
Let's see. Owning a home, there's always a renovation or something to be done. So probably in the next couple of years, we'll be doing a major improvement to the kitchen, maybe other parts of the downstairs. But other than that, travel. We as a family tend to take some pretty exotic trips and would like to continue to do that, while we can. Mm-hmm. But that's about it.
I think that you've got the right game plan in place. I think that, if you are kind of chugging along, especially if you're living on that base or even a little less and banking that extra money, that extra bonus money, I presume that banking of it had previously gone into 529 plans, but now with college essentially, I would say mostly funded. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. Yeah.
Okay. That now I really do think that that bonus money for the next 10, 12, 15 years, however long you work, that should really be going into beefing up your non-retirement savings account. And that is going to basically be your kitchen remodeling fund, your wedding fund, your fun family trip fund, right? All that stuff. And I would not worry too much about, killing myself on, maximizing every single retirement dollar. I would say that because of just where you are in your life, you're going to need to have that non-retirement money built up. I don't know how much weddings cost in North Carolina. I was just shocked to learn when someone asked me a question over the weekend, and I said, well, what other expenses? This is just a friend of mine. And he goes, well, I got to pay for my kid's wedding. I said, well, how much is that? And he said, $200,000. And I almost passed out. I really, I must be so out of touch, but that seemed like
you can spend that.
I just feel like that is a crap load of money. So I'm not presuming that you're going to do that because that's a nutty New Yorker. But okay. So anyway, I mentioned that because these expenses can balloon up. And I really think that later on, maybe if, you're going to have to really determine whether or not, I think the backdoor Roth makes sense, but whether or not you'll be in a position where, if you retire at 62 and your income goes down and tax rates are still low, because remember, this weird tax change was a temporary thing. It may be that when you retire, tax rates are actually higher, which is why I want you to use the Roth option in your 401k now. And so I just don't think that for you, converting right this second would mean you'd have to stop working. And I don't want you to stop working. I want you to keep working. So I think you're doing the right thing. Building up that non-retirement fluff of like what you think is like extra is really important. It's not extra. These are real things that you want to do. And so we want to make sure you can do that. Do you think you'll stay in North Carolina when you retire?
More than likely, but we're open to other places.
I think you're in really good shape. And again, if you just stay on course here, you should be in even better shape. Let's see how things turn out. If you need a financial advisor, you need someone to run the numbers for you, that may happen maybe like in 5 years from now. You may want to do that just as you're sort of looking ahead. But you can feel free to call us back anytime and check in. I think you're in really good shape. I think you're going to get where you need to go.
Well, thanks, Jill.
All right.
We have time for one more technical asset allocation question.
Very quickly.
All right. Bond funds.
Yes.
I hate what they're doing in a rising rate environment, but is it worth buying into those?
Yeah.
The weakness for long term?
Absolutely. I mean, just simply from a management of their risk, I think it makes sense. Just keep it should be intermediate term or less. You don't want to be in some long-term bond fund, but, short to intermediate term should be fine. If you're really scared of bond funds, you can keep a little extra money in cash. But remember, you got that old pension that's $115,000 in that 4% guarantee. That's pretty good. And keep some money safe. Thanks for calling, Brian. Great call. Great way to start the program. You are listening to Jill on Money. We are taking the mystery out of your financial life. One call and email at a time. Send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
Yes, we do. That's what we do. We take the mystery out of your finances. We try to figure out how to help you get where you want to go. We do so without judgment. We do so with a smile and a sense of humor because that's how we roll here. No baloney. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. All you have to do is send us an email, ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. By the way, in terms of technology, you know what, Mark? Forgetting about all the social media crap, I still love email. It's just the most efficient way to communicate, and it doesn't feel as invasive as texting, although I invade your space all the time by texting you, which I apologize for in advance, especially at those early morning ones. Sorry. All right. Hey, John writes he wants an opinion on a financial to-do before retirement. Background. I'm currently in my early 50s. I expect to retire early, probably within the next few years. No pension benefits from our work careers. Our portfolio withdrawal rate should be just under 3% before Social Security benefits kick in when I turn 70, at which point our withdrawal rate will drop to around 1 to 1.5%. So just everyone, so you know that, when you think about withdrawal rate, you sort of say, hey, I got $1 million saved. At what rate can I pull money out of this without draining it? And 3% is pretty good. So if it were $1 million, you could take 30 grand a year. But in this case, he's going to take that 30 grand a year. And then after he turns 70, the withdrawal rate drops down to 1 to 1.5%. No debt. Our children are grown, so no more college costs. Woohoo! In addition to our investment portfolio, we have 3 years of expenses already set aside in money market accounts and CDs. We let our term life insurance policies go when the 20-year level period was up. No specific long-term care strategy in place yet. At this point, I'm thinking we'll probably self-insure. We expect to generate approximately $100,000 to $150,000 in free cash flow after taxes and tithing over the final few years of work. This is after saving about 20% in retirement accounts during that period. Sounds like a good deal all around so far. If you found yourself in our situation, what would be on your wish list of uses for this free cash flow that would provide the maximum retirement financial benefit or to fill a hole in our plan that we've missed? More cash? Allocate more into our investment portfolio? Deferred single premium joint life annuity? An annuity with a long-term care link benefit? Anything else I'm missing? Thanks for your thoughts. I welcome your opinion. We just want to make sure we use this cash flow wisely to address any loose ends. Let's start with what you shouldn't do. Do not buy a deferred single premium joint life annuity. Do not buy an annuity with a long-term care linked benefit. Let's not do that. What you didn't tell me was kind of what your total asset base was. I'm thinking it's probably, multiple millions, in which case you really don't need to get any annuity product. So I wouldn't necessarily put more cash in, but I would take that free cash flow and add it to your general non-retirement investment account. I would just remind you that before you retire is a good time to sit down with an estate attorney and review everything that's going on. I think that you really sound like you're in great shape. So when I hear that story, the only thing I say is, boy, I wish everyone could be as easy as that. Because you are in really good shape. I like it. Mark, anything to add to this? I think he's pretty darn good. He's rocking and rolling. Mark gave you the thumbs up. Okay. All right, next up. Cheryl writes, can you recommend a reputable firm or advisor that will invest my 401k wisely? Like it was their mother's money. That's an awesome question. So you want someone who is a fiduciary at all times. I don't know if you're still working. That's one question I have for you. So if this is an active 401k, some advisors won't do that. But you want a fee-only planner, you can go to NAPFA, NAPFA.org. And if it's an old 401k, some money that you've already had, you've left the company, then you can roll it over to an IRA rollover account, and you could have that managed by anybody, a person, but also an online platform. So I would absolutely check the alternatives out for you. I might ask for a few more pieces of information before I give you the final, don't worry about it. But, if the worst case scenario is that you have a 401k, it's active, you don't have that much in it, and you're worried, why don't you give us a holler and we can look at your choices and we'll help guide you as to what we think is best for you. So you can follow up with us, and anyone else listening. Sometimes it's just a matter of us helping you get an allocation that's going to keep you out of trouble. That's it. Okay? So that's something to consider, and don't get freaked out. It sounds a tiny bit like maybe you're freaking yourself out. Not sure. Okay. Oh my gosh, this is too long. I can't do this. I'm some of these emails are great. All this. Okay. Oh, here's a question that I want to get to quickly before from Philip. Help me. My retirement account is falling. What allocations of funds should I be in today's market? I want to retire sometime next year. I want to preserve what I have. Okay, Philip, I need more information. But even if you're retiring next year, please remember that you have decades in the future. Did you come into a period of volatility with too much risk? That's something we can help you with. But you don't have to preserve every dollar that you have in that account because you are investing for decades in the future. So send us some more information and we can definitely help you out. And frankly, volatility is a really good way to judge just how much risk you can assume in your own life, right? So if you just got freaked out, you probably have gotten a great piece of information. I was taking too much risk. And to fix that, you then have to change the allocation, but then you also have to make sure that you're not changing it back when things steady. This is what we do to ourselves. We react instead of think forward, okay? So let's talk more about this. Let me get to your bottom line and your situation. The easiest way to do that is to give us a holler. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Go to the website, JillOnMoney.com, and you can also click the Contact Us button. All right, we'll be right back.
Follow Jill on Twitter and Instagram for more personal finance content. Just use the handle @JillOnMoney. Now, back to the show.
All right, you are back. We're deep into the hour now, baby. We got things to do. Do you have a financial question? Something burning? A career question? Are you dealing with an idiotic boss? That's what Mark has to. I'm not even your boss. I mean, it's really, I am not. I mean, he's not on my payroll or anything. I'm just saying that this man puts up with me being a lunatic every so often. Not a lot, but every so often. And that's when he's like, okay, bye. He hangs up on me. Very nicely. You never have hung up on me yet, but you're like, okay, gotta go. It's very nice of you. I appreciate that. Anyway, if you've got a work issue, let's work it out together. You got a employer-employee issue? Let's do it. Let's talk about how you're going to get a raise. Let's talk about how you are going to better manage your staff. Let's talk about how you are going to figure out how to balance your financial life with your work life. How about that? Let's do it. Just send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Go onto the website, JillOnMoney.com, JillOnMoney.com, and you can click on the Contact Us button. Okay. Here is a message from Jane. It's a long one, so pay attention, okay? Jane is an employee with a mortgage underwriter. And she says, of course, I would like to retire tomorrow if it were feasible. See, I don't think that's enough of course. I think people really do like working. But Jane says, listen, mortgage underwriting is not the most exciting business in the world, but some people really love it. Jane wants to take time off to enjoy what's left of life and leave the stressful job behind. Okay, but I want to be realistic. And I want to select the smartest way to do this. Excellent, right? All right. I will have to rely solely on Social Security for income. No pension plans. I'm 62. Good credit. So let's see what you got here. We have a residence, which is worth $300,000. There is a mortgage and a home equity line of credit. And it looks to me like the balance is $130,000. It's a variable. Oh, I think it's only a home equity line. I don't think there's anything else. So $130,000 outstanding at 5.25%. Yowza. Okay. Let's see. What else you got? IRA, $330,000. Mutual funds, $310. Social Security income, she gives me all of the pieces here. Okay. First question. Should I pay down the home equity line of credit balance on my primary home in the next 3 to 4 years with my disposable income? The goal would be to be mortgage free upon retirement, or should I save the money? I'm going to give you another choice in a second. Should I retire early? I'm going to do that easily. No, definitely not. This is a case where absolutely not. You should not retire early. You can't afford to. You should wait until, you're going to use all that disposable income. What happens if you pull that Social Security? Forget about it. No, not even close. Should I wait to retire in 3 to 4 years? Yes. And the question is, if I wait to retire, should I draw from the IRA to make mortgage payments or pay down the home equity line of credit from the IRA annually, keeping the annual draw to the lowest tax bracket? Okay, here is the answer to all of this. I think you need to really be clear. And I don't have all of the information, but you don't have that much money, okay? And I think that you would be best to delay your retirement for as long as possible until your full retirement age, which is 66.4. You'll get the $2,500 a month. And I think that you're going to need your liquidity. So you want to build up. I would not pay down. I'm not sure I would pay down. I think I would kind of split the difference here. I think that you should essentially try to live on your base, which is $66,000. Use your bonus to fund your to maybe start to pay down, because at 5.25%, that's a pretty high rate. So I would start to do that. I wouldn't kill myself to do it, but I would do that. And you didn't mention whether you are putting money away in a retirement account, even though you have an IRA. I don't know if you're still contributing to that. So what I think I would probably do is this. I think I would use my cash flow to kind of do two things. One is pay down the home equity line of credit, and then also beef up your non-retirement assets. I think you should delay your retirement to your full retirement age. And then I think the other piece is really interesting. I think that you may really benefit from seeing a financial advisor. Maybe a fee-only financial advisor, but certainly someone who is a fiduciary, and meaning they put you first. You can go to NAPFA, NAPFA.org. You can go to letsmakeaplan.org. That's the CFP website. But you don't need to be sold a bunch of stuff, but you do need some planning. And that planning work is what will kind of start to help you get to a solution. And you didn't mention where the mutual fund or the IRA, where those funds are invested, but I'd be interested to know that for sure. And of course, you would never pay down your home equity line of credit if you're considering a move out of that home. I should just mention that. Okay, that's good. All right, you are listening to Jill on Money. Do you have a retirement question? Are you just starting out? Getting some young folks here also. Give us a holler. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Hop onto the website, JillOnMoney.com. You can listen to lots of past stuff. You can watch videos and TV segments, and you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter. We'll be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. We are closing out hour number 1 with a great question. Remember, if you do have something that's bubbling up, you're listening to the program and you're wondering what should you do about some similar problem or even a different one, why don't you send us an email? Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. All right, this is from Matthew, who has a 401k balance, which is divided among a few actively managed T. Rowe Price funds, large cap, mid cap, small cap. He says they appear to have a better rate of return than the Vanguard index funds that are offered in my plan. How do I know if the better rate of return of the actively managed fund gives me a better return than the index funds, which carry much lower fees? They should be compared net of fees, is what you really should look at. But if they're not, I would I would just venture to guess, just so you know. I was talking about Jack Bogle dying last week, and I looked up the most recent information about active versus managed funds. 9 out of 10 actively managed funds failed to beat their market indexes over a 15-year time horizon. That's good enough for me to just stick to index funds. And I don't know how much better return and what time horizon you're looking at, but considering this is a 401k, and considering that you are probably investing for a very long time in the future, I just believe that you are likely to receive a better overall return from using a portfolio of index funds. And by the way, you mentioned you have large cap, mid cap, and small cap, all stock funds. Do you not have any? Are you 100% in stocks? How old are you? Is that necessary? That seems like a lot of money in the stock market. But anyway, I really think that indexing, that's the miracle. In fact, I wrote a blog post about it, my ode to Jack Bogle, because I just think over the long term, that's where you want to be. Then you can concentrate on other stuff like, boy, do I have too much risk in my 401k? Thanks for writing, Matthew. And if I've missed something, follow up. Let me know. Okay, when we return, we are going to answer more of your questions because this is the kind of show it is. We're talking about you and your financial life. It's the first quarter. It's rebooting your financial life. So let's get going. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com is our email address. Hop onto the website, JillOnMoney.com. And while you're there, click on the link to the book and pre-order it because it is funny, entertaining, and might just help you save or make a few bucks. The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money, on sale February 5th. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
All right, it's hour number 2, and we are foregoing a guest this week because I am buried under your emails. I'm so sorry if we haven't gotten back to you as quickly as you would like. However, there are many in front of you. That's all I can say. If you do have a time-sensitive situation, please let us know. Otherwise, Mark and I are going to endeavor to probably do many, many, many emails over the next few weeks just to get unburied. And we'll skip some guests. You know why? Because you're more important than the guests, let's be honest. You are. So if you have a financial question, ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. That is the email address. You can go to our website, JillOnMoney.com. While you're there, you'll see there's a Contact Us button. So feel free to use that. All right, let's do some emails. Brian writes that I just heard your show with David McKnight about today's tax rates being on sale, and it got me thinking. Here is my situation. I'm sitting on some pretty decent long-term capital gains in a taxable brokerage account, largely held in 4 American funds and also a few individual stocks. They're from long ago when I was young and started investing. And aside from a bit of rebalancing here and there, I just let them ride and reinvest these past 20 years or so. 5 years ago, I stopped reinvesting the distributions, and I've been taking those distributions in cash, putting them into a bond index fund to help better balance my portfolio. Okay, that's good. All told, the American fund's capital gains is around $560,000. The individual stocks gains would be around $1 million. Here's my question. Does it make sense for me to sell these over the next 6 years, take the capital gains hit at the current low rates, 20 plus 3.8%, then 31 days later, I'd reinvest it in an international index fund, effectively resetting my cost basis. Repeat for the next 5 years. It seems really weird to sell now to pay the taxes now, kind of the opposite of what IRAs, et cetera, are for, but the McKnight interview got me thinking. I mean, it's funny because this is a taxable brokerage account, so I'm just going to remind everybody about that. if the smart money says tax rates are going up, I have to imagine that go back to taxing capital gains at the same as income would be highly under consideration. I'd love to know McKnight's take on that, in which case it would seem to be a good time to reset my cost basis. Then he writes, here's the Jill's required info with a trademark sign, which I love. Okay, so wife, 49. Remember, this is his situation. Did he say he hasn't said his age yet. Wife, 49. He's 56. Here we go. 56, married. Wife is 49, works full-time, making around $200,000 a year. I'm self-employed, making $200,000 a year, though it does vary. And I've been thinking of cutting back in the next couple of years, maybe to $80,000 a year. 2 kids, each in college. College is fully funded with 529 plans. I have about $1.2 million between 2 IRAs and a Roth IRA. So $800 in a regular IRA and $400 in a Roth. My wife has $900,000 in a 401k. Taxable brokerage account, $2 million, $300,000 in cash. It's mostly earning about 2.5%. I own a house valued at about $1.8 million. I owe $240,000 at 3% fixed. All right, so let's take a breath here. So what do we know is we know that these guys are, their highest tax bracket right now is this 35% bracket. Okay. The thing that's interesting about this, I'm not honing in on his first question. I'm just looking at those 2 IRAs at $800,000. You thinking what I'm thinking, Mark? That maybe when you pull back in terms of, instead of going from having joint income of $400, that your joint income drops down to like $280, maybe you start slowly but surely converting your IRA into a Roth. And here, and part of this could clearly be tied into selling some of your non-retirement account and taking that capital gain hit. But I think the McKnight thesis, and I would say that also the Ed Slott thesis, he's the one who does a lot of our tax shows with us, is that while capital gains could go up, what's more likely is that marginal tax rates will rise. So if that were the case, I would be focusing on trying to pay the tax that's due on the traditional IRA rather than the focus being the 23.8% on the capital gains. Because what I think you could be finding is that, again, let's say that you decide to pull back your income. You could be going from a top marginal bracket of 35% down to a top marginal bracket of 24%. Now, that's a pretty big deal because as you convert, again, you'd have to stay within that 24% bracket to start making this really work well. To me, that's a much more interesting idea than the actual idea of paying the capital gains rate. Now, look, the capital gains rate, it could go up. And you're right. It could basically go from this low 23.8 and pop up and say, oh, we're actually going back to a time where whatever your nominal income tax bracket is, that's what capital gains is. But that's going to have to be a much broader tax conversation. I think rates could go up before we actually see capital gains go up. So I like the idea of maybe starting to convert the IRAs into Roth IRAs. You could start to sell some of the assets in the American funds simply to rebalance. I mean, you don't give me the whole breakdown of the brokerage account in terms of allocation. So that's one thing. And I would also remind you that if you are charitably inclined, using the American funds with low cost basis as the gift is a really good idea. But overall, I think you are the kind of person who could be taking advantage of what I would call a tax arbitrage, essentially using the tax code to your advantage. And it may be part of a larger strategy. And for that, you may want to go talk to a financial advisor. I don't know. You might. Doesn't have to be. But I do think that you are in very good shape. You sound like you've really done a good job. And I think that this idea of starting to do something before the clock runs out and you're faced with much higher rates makes a lot of sense. So, great. But it's a great, great question. Thank you so much for writing. I really appreciate it, Brian. If you have follow-up calls, let's get you on the air. We'll do that with you. Okay. That was a great second hour kickoff. More of your financial questions coming up, but if you've got something going on for you right this second, shoot us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com or go to the website, JillOnMoney.com. While you're there, sign up for our free newsletter. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back with Jill on Money. And we are broadcasting live from the Capital One Bank studios. So delighted you've joined us. If you have a financial question, we would like to hear from you. Very easy. All you have to do is just send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. You can also go onto the website. Hey, while you're on the website, ladies and gentlemen, why don't you pre-order my new book? It's called The Dumb Things Smart People Do with Their Money, and it is coming out on February 5th. Any day now. It's all starting to come together. And there's a lot going on. We will be starting the process of letting you know. Maybe we should do that in the newsletter, Mark, to let people know when we might be coming to their area for the book. It's not going to be like a huge book tour per se, but there's going to be certain markets, especially those radio markets, where I think we're going to spend some time. I'm talking to you, Hartford and Buffalo. Maybe even Philly. San Francisco. I think we're going to try the Bay Area. Got something brewing over there. D.C., Baltimore. Anyway, we'll let you know. Have you not gotten the newsletter? The newsletter's great. The newsletter growing by leaps and bounds. Mark said he was going to be at like 1,000 at the end of last year. Is that right, Mark? Is that what you had said? Wasn't 1,000 your number? And where are we now? 9,000. He's holding up all of his fingers. I had to count. 9,000. I want to get to 10,000 fast. God, so great. Okay. Anyway, we'd love to hear from you. And so give us a shout. And if you want to hear from us, sign up for that newsletter. It's JillOnMoney.com. JillOnMoney.com. All right. Again, we are doing all emails this hour because I'm trying to catch up. I got, I don't know, bulldozed by the holidays. So to help me out, I've foregoing guests for a while so we can do this. Okay. This is from Topher. My husband and I are slowly growing our family through foster/adoption. We have a 3-year-old now whose adoption we finalized a little over a year ago. We're hoping to have 1 or maybe 2 more in the next 5 years. He writes, crazy? Well, listen, for me it sounds crazy because I'm not a parent, but you have to have at least 2. I'm trying to get Mark to do 2. Okay. We currently live in a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom place that's good for us now, but would be a little cozier than we'd like the more we grow. And I also work at home, so one of the bedrooms is taken by my office. The ultimate goal is to get us into a bigger place to allow for that. We have a decent amount of equity in our home now, about $150,000, but I'm thinking it might be nice to keep our current place and rent it out so we'd have that investment property in the long run. Okay. The thing is, we refinanced about a year ago to get down to a 15-year loan so we would pay less interest, 3.5% rate, and guarantee the mortgage would be gone by the time we want to retire. That was also back when I was super motivated to pay off the mortgage at all costs. So now the problem is that the current mortgage is more than what we could get to rent our place. I'm wondering if we go ahead and refinance again back to a 30 so that we can have the property be cash flow positive. On the other hand, that would help us keep the property as an investment, and then we need to come up with the down payment for a new place without using the equity. Okay. Here are the numbers, gang. Household income, $245,000 a year. And they have about $2,000 a month they can put towards investment or savings. Putting $150 a month into a 529. They've got an emergency reserve, $32,000, 6 months, plus another $13,000 probably for another kid. Taxable brokerage account, $27,000, some earmarked for a new car. Let's see. There's some money here in Roth and IRA assets. So let me just do the quick total. 30 and 470, 80, 90. Let's call it 130,000 or so in retirement assets between the two of them. Up until a discussion of about a bigger house happened, I was putting all of our cash flow, that's that $2,000 a month, towards the taxable brokerage account in hopes of having enough in about 20 years to retire early at 55. So part of me say we should sell our current place, continue to put that money towards taxable brokerage, and not worry about keeping our current place. Okay, now, here's the answer. You're not keeping this place. Why are you people are very funny. First of all, maybe it's going to be good for you. Maybe it would be a great do to keep this rental property. But if you want to move into a new home, I don't see why you wouldn't use the equity that you have. And then you don't have to worry about this whole mortgage shenanigans. And you're going to take this $150,000 and you're going to get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. You didn't say one thing that's very interesting to me. You did not tell me how much money you would have to pay to get into a home that you would want. So you're going to have to back into this and figure this out. If you tell me you need, I'm going to make this up. You need a $750,000 place, then you're going to put this $150,000 of your current place down and you'll get a mortgage for the balance. If you're going to spend a lot less money, you still may want to put down a pretty good down payment to keep your total payment reasonable. But you, as you said, you've got this $2,000 a month of cash flow. You can afford a larger place. And ideally, what I would say is this. You need to kind of back into and start with the house. Figure how much house you can really afford. Figure out how you can run your scenarios looking forward in terms of your retirement and paying for some education expenses, because it sounds like you want to do a little bit of both, and see what you should be buying. And if you don't want to do this yourself, you can get help. It's very easy. You can get an advisor, a fee-only advisor. You can get someone to walk you through the different steps and possibilities that you are confronting. You don't have to do this alone. But I think what you probably need to do is dismiss this idea of keeping the old place as rental, because there's too much money sucked into that place. And it seems to me that that would be really curtailing what your opportunities could be in the future. So you might need an overall financial game plan. You might need a fee-only advisor. You might want to go to NAPFA, NAPFA.org. You may want to run the numbers yourself. But what you really need to think about is your larger game plan. What is important to you? And I don't think that this rental is the primary mover in your decision. The primary mover in the decision is a new house. And if that is your primary mover, then you've got to pay attention to that. And the only thing that you need to really concentrate on is how big a house can we afford that will still allow us to max out our retirement and put some money away for our education. That's it. And if you can do that, I think you're going to be really happy, and you're not going to worry about this mortgage. Keep the mortgage, but really, really focus on your priorities. Because if you don't, you are taking your eye off of the ball, and the ball here is that new house. All right? If you've got more questions, let us know. This is Jill on Money. If you want, you know what you could do? Why don't you subscribe to our podcast? It's called Jill on Money, and you can get it on Apple, Stitcher, Radio.com, Google Play, anywhere else you find your favorite podcast, or just go to JillOnMoney.com. That is the repository of all important information. JillOnMoney.com. When we return, more of your questions. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back with Jill on Money. You want to come on the air with us live? Then let us know what's going on in your financial life. I'll either answer it on the air, or we'll invite you on, or maybe a little bit of both. Who knows? But we are trying to plow through emails, and we're going to really focus on that for the next couple of weeks until I talk unendingly about my book, which is dropping on February 5th. All the people who have come on my podcast and my radio show to talk up their books, I've become that annoying person. I won't be that annoying. It's just me. And look, all this great advice you get and this great entertainment, $25. One book. Go pre-order it. Go to JillOnMoney.com. Click on the link that says The Book, and you can pre-order it from wherever you want. So we have lots of links everywhere. Okay? John writes, I'm single, I'm getting close to retirement age, and I'm considering selling my home in Connecticut in order to move to a less expensive state that is a bit financially kinder to retirees. So we know what's out. New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, can't go there, can't go to California. Anyway, I don't want to own another home, so I'm considering rentals for the remainder of my years. Are there any tax consequences or other considerations when I sell my home and not purchasing another one? The home I own is free and clear of any mortgage and was quit-claimed deed to me by my mother many years ago. Ah, how interesting. Well, you don't give me the numbers, but let's talk about this for a second. A quit-claim deed is just an easy way to convey title, okay? So I'm going to pretend the numbers are as such. Your mom put this house into your name years ago. What should we consider? Let's make some numbers up, Mark. How about that we say that the house was probably worth, I'm going to make this up, $100,000 at the time she gifted it to you. Okay? It's years ago. Maybe let's call it 200. It's Connecticut. I don't know what part of Connecticut. Let's say that mom and dad bought the house a long, long time ago. At what price? 50? Let's say 50. Okay, so the original purchase price is $50,000. Then let's even say 20 years ago, she gifted this house to you. She did this with a quitclaim deed, but that doesn't have any impact on taxes in terms of the actual conveyance. The important piece is that she did convey it. So when you got this house, it was worth $200,000. Now, you may think that's your cost basis, but it is not. Your cost basis in my made-up scenario would be $50,000. Okay, so now let's go forward again. Let's say that 20 years later, the $200,000 house is worth, what should we make it, $500,000? Let's do 500,000 for the heck of it. So let's say the fair market value today and what you're going to sell it for is $500,000. Now, let's also presume that along the way, you and your mother upgraded the house. You made some improvements, not decorating, but real improvements. Maybe you got like a real generator, or maybe you did something to a bathroom, or maybe you created living space where there was no space previously. All of those improvements are added to mom's cost basis. So let's say, I don't know, should I be generous? You think there's 300 grand in cost basis or 30 grand? No way, 30. I'm going to say there's 50 grand in improvements at least. Guys own the house for 20 years. All right. So let's say you've made $50,000 in improvements, and you got to be able to prove this, by the way. So don't make it up without having some, even if you don't have exact receipts, you can at least know, like, well, I did this. All right, now let's say your cost basis is $100,000. You are single. You sell the house for $500,000. You have $400,000 of gain. However, you are able to deduct $250,000 of that gain because you have an exclusion. And that exclusion is for every taxpayer. So, of the $400,000 in gain, you can reduce it by $250,000, leaving you with a gain of $150,000. I don't know what your tax bracket is, and maybe you do this when you retire. So let's pretend you do this exactly when you retire, so you do it in a year where your income is down. Of that gain of $150,000, you will pay 20% of that. That's your capital gains rate. If you make a ton of money and you do it in a year when you have too much income, then it'll be 23.8. If you have not that much income, maybe you'll be able to have 15%. I'm going to just assume it's about 20%. So you sell the house for $500 grand, you've got to pay $30,000 in taxes. Okay? That's what you owe. And that is your tax consequence. And there's no tax consequence of not buying another. That is simply the disposition of your mother's home. And that, in and of itself, is a tax event. If I've messed up any of my assumptions, you've got to let me know. But the most important thing for everyone listening is that when your parents just put your name on a deed, they do so at your potential tax peril. They want to avoid spending money, being forced to spend money on long-term care costs. Or maybe they're doing it for some other reason. But by doing so, when they make that gift, they gift you their own cost basis. And so as a result, you will have to pay a steeper tax bill. It's not that much. You don't tell me about anything else in your financial life. And frankly, if you sold a house for $500 grand and you had to pay $30 in taxes and another bunch to Connecticut and some fees and everything, that if you sold it for $500 and you were left with $50 grand of expenses and taxes, big deal. Pay the bill, go along, and rent. And that's it. That's your big consequence. That's all you lose. Renting is flexibility, and it's a beautiful thing. So I wish you good luck. Let me know if I got any of this wrong. When we return, we're going to get back to more of your questions. It's Jill on Money. We'll be right back.
Follow Jill on Twitter and Instagram for more personal finance content. Just use the handle @JillOnMoney. Now, back to the show.
You are back with Jill on Money. And if you've got a financial question, we really would love to hear from you. Also, if you got a suggestion for a guest, I'm always looking for good guests. Maybe there's someone in your neighborhood who is really smart about financial stuff, or a local author that you think is great. Give us a shout. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. Okay, Camellia writes, my son will be graduating from high school in May of this year, and will attend college in August. What financial resources are available to us to help us get our son through the next 4 years? We have already submitted our FAFSA application. So now, where do we begin for other financial resources? Well, what you should do is you should talk to friend of the show, Kelly Peeler's folks. The company is called Next Gen Vest. And I love this organization because what they do is they have a money mentor, which is basically a trained college student, who is assigned to a high school student, and that money mentor will make the process of applying for college and getting financial aid easier. So what you can do is you can go to nextgenvest.com. You can text 646-798-1745, 646-798-1745, and just text, I want help paying for college. You'll be connected 24/7 with a human being. And I also want to recommend another friend of the show, Beth Kobliner, who's got a great new section of her website. And it's Beth Kobliner with a K, Kobliner, BethKobliner.com. And just click on the We Need to Talk College section. That is what you should be doing. And, it's a long road. But again, if people plan and they're smart and honest with their kids about this, I think it will help everyone avoid lots of debt and lots of dopey mistakes that you would essentially have to pay for down the line. Okay, so here's a note from Andrew, who opened a Betterment account 5 years ago to test the service because I thought my kids, who are now 22 and 25, would like it. I never closed the account because of the tax loss harvesting feature. I feel silly because I'm a DIY in do-it-yourself investor, but like the automatic tax loss. Why do you feel silly? First of all, it's so cheap. Just keep it. Who cares? Keep the account. It's fine. If you like these online advisors, the one that, listen, I have a relationship with Betterment because they used to sponsor my podcast. And I think they've got a great service because they do that tax loss harvesting. So keep it. It's fine. Okay, here's a note from Lori, who is a federal employee who also has 40 quarters of paying into Social Security. My question is, am I eligible for survivor spouse benefits as a future CSRS retiree? I don't know that. I think what you ought to do is contact your favorite Social Security office. And, we had this guy, Steve Vernon, on who basically, he's like, look, just call. And so I'm no Social Security expert, but I'd call, and I think that you may be entitled to it. But if you're not, they'll figure out what portion is going to be disqualified. And that windfall elimination is something you have to deal with one way or the other, so you'll find out. All right? It's very easy. Okay, let me see this. Medicare questions. I've been retired for several years. I turned 64 last month. I began receiving Social Security at 62, so I'm automatically enrolled in Medicare. Now, you're automatically enrolled to get Medicare when you turn 65. When do I have to enroll in a specific Medicare plan, as I'll be using the Affordable Care Act for the entire calendar year of 2019? I turned 65 in October 2019. Does Medicare start the following year for me? It's those last 2.5 months of 2019 that have me confused. Okay. Oh, by the way, I enjoy your segments on CBS This Morning. I always pick up something useful. Hey, thanks. Okay, Steve, here's the deal. I think that your Medicare, you would probably enroll. What I would do is just to make myself a little bit, to make it safe, I would get ready. I think you would enroll in 2020. I think it's January 2020, because you are using the Affordable Care Act for the entire year of 2019. So I would start the process at least in December, and then make sure, because Medicare, usually the Medicare enrollment period, it closes at, I think, the beginning of December. I think it was December 7th or so, somewhere around there. So what I would do is I would check out, go onto the website, check it out, and then I would enroll. And if the worst case scenario is that you pay a little bit extra for like 1 month, big deal. At least you've got your coverage all set. So just make sure you check that out, okay? Be sure, because I think that not having coverage is a lot more dangerous than having doubled your coverage for, a few weeks or a month. But I'm pretty sure that Medicare, you apply in December so that it starts in 2020, January of 2020. Okay? Good. All right. If you've got a financial question, we'd like to hear from you. Just go to our website, JillOnMoney.com, and click the Contact Us button. While you're there, here's some things you can do. Sign up for our free weekly newsletter. And you can pre-order my book. It comes out February 5th. Pre-order it right now. It's The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. Okay, just go to JillOnMoney.com. You'll find it all. We'll be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. And before we go, sometimes I get such a nice note and I just want to read it because, hey, we've got feelings too. We hosts and executive producers. We like to hear nice feedback. So here's a great message from Judy, who read an article I wrote about FIRE, the Financial Independence Retire Early movement. Dear Ms. Schlesinger, when I read your article, it made me cry. We are currently living this dream. My husband and I are not millennials. I'm a baby boomer. He's a Gen Xer, and we're married over 35 years. We were called dinks in our day, dual income, no kids. We watched our parents be the last generation of those who enjoyed lifetime employment and those who got pensions. We had to become shape shifters with regard to our occupations. We each had 3. He was in retail for the RV industry, a musician, and then construction. I was an electronics technician, private chef, and then went into real estate. During each cycle of each economic downturn, there were many. We revolved around these separate ways to generate money to sustain ourselves. During the good times, we worked harder as we knew this was how to get ahead. When our peers blew money, we saved ours. We watched our parents sell homes, blow through their money, never helping anyone. Ultimately, we were helping them in the end. Today, we're too young for Social Security or Medicare. We sold all our assets, investments, and possessions. We purchased our last home, a condo, with cash. We're new to this newly found freedom and celebrate it all day, every day. Only months in, I commented just last week that I never thought we would get our silly back. Now we laugh a lot. We were anxious and serious, always scared about the next layoff, change in medical coverage, and just the uncertainty of the future. It was so much that our standard catchphrase was, "What now?" Well, now is here. What we worked for, and we are sleeping better than we ever have. Peace at last. Our friends, family, peers, they're not as lucky. We stay quiet, humble, and help where we can. But there can be no denying lifestyle choices predict where we all end up. Please continue to write these articles. I so look forward to reading them. You are educating people to have a better life. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. Thank you. Thank you so much. And that was a great way to end the program. You've got a path in front of you, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of this is in your control. Some of it isn't. And we want you to know that we're here for you. So thanks for tuning in. If you've got a question throughout the week, give us a holler. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We'll see you next week.